And, what was it like just being a child of a pastor?
Just a lot of anger and confusion. As a kid, you really just want to be a kid.
There's a lot of pressure there. You feel like you have to make sure you move and you maneuver correctly. If you could give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
No matter how angry you get at mom or dad, they love you. They care about you. They would do anything for you. That would be the advice that I would give to myself.
Welcome to the Forge Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Osiris Farmer here, and I am so excited for the episode that we have here tonight. I'm even more excited about the guest that we have. Sitting across from me is one of my favorite people that I've really got to get to know, get to become close with over the last couple years or so.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited that he's able to join us. But before we jump in and we introduce our guest today, if you're not familiar with us here at the Forge Podcast, we are a Christian-based podcast, and we believe that iron sharpens iron. And we are going to do that through having amazing conversations with individuals and really just diving into their walks with Jesus Christ. And we have a unique opportunity to do that here. And so before we get started, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and let somebody know about us. But without further ado, I almost forgot. I almost forgot. I want to say a happy belated birthday to the man behind the scenes right now, Big Joe, Joseph. What is your Sir Duke himself. He is behind the scenes, but my man just turned 30. I'm joking. 28.
Excellent.
So happy belated birthday, man. We appreciate it. We love you. And, just glad we get to celebrate you in this little moment here. You can't see him, but he's working real hard in the background, making sure all of this looks nice. But without further ado, I want to take a moment to introduce the one, the only Blake Norman, everybody.
What's going on? Nice to meet y'all. Or for those of y'all watching, nice to meet y'all. My name's Blake Norman. I have known Osiris here for the past couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And Joe and I go way back to when he was a teacher at the youth group and I was a student. So I've known him and his family for a while as well. And thank you guys for having me on. And I'm excited to.
Yeah, man. We are super excited to have you on, and thank you for joining us, man. I think I hit you up a couple weeks ago asking for you to come on, and this topic that we're gonna really dive into today is just something that I've always been curious about. Just would love to pick your brain, and I know you're not the only one. I know there's a plethora of people who have similar stories, similar upbringings that's similar to yours. And if you are not familiar with Blake, Blake is the son of our pastor, Keith Norman, the lead servant at the Factory Church in Woodstock, Georgia. And I've got the unique opportunity to kind of see Blake's life from an outside perspective, as if if you have a pastor and you are you're faithful to your church, your pastor is going to talk about his kids. Every Sunday, it seems like there's some story that PK comes and pulls from either you or your sister or your mother, and so seeing the outside perspective, on stage, but want to really kind of turn it around and talk about your perspective, your upbringing and what that is like growing up as a PK of PK. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I really wanted to dive into having that conversation with you, and really relating to if you're not familiar with my story, I think I'm the farthest thing from a PK. I was not raised in the church. And so, really just wanted to dive into, your perspective and your upbringing and what that looked like from you, and ultimately, what has that done with your walk with Jesus. And so, I just really wanted to get started and ask you, what was it like growing up with PK as a father, and what was it like just being a child of a pastor?
hmm Uh, the one word to describe would be different. Basically, that sums it up. Different in the way that I had to, carry myself, different in the way that I had to be at school, different in, the way that I, talked and things like that. And then that really led to, I always knew being Christian was important, but as a child, it was kind of annoying,
Mm-hmm.
just because I would be, forced to do certain things that I wasn't really too keen on. Random Bible studies when I'm just trying to chill at home, and then, I
Mm-hmm.
gotta come downstairs, or, wanting to sleep in on a Sunday, and, I gotta wake up and I gotta go to both services, not just
Mm-hmm.
one, because dad's the pastor and things like that. And then, Wednesdays going to, youth group as well. When I really just had a long day at school and I just wanted to come home and like relax. So it was definitely different. I'd say being a PK, it didn't really show itself to me until I grew up,
Mm-hmm.
until being an adult, having to go through some more of those life experiences that
For
really
sure.
teach you how to lean on God more. So once I reached a point about, 20 years old, something like that, that's when I began to see that everything that happened to me really happened for me.
Mm.
Um, so that was a shift that I wasn't expecting, because I always expected being a PK to just be, a bother. But it was actually a blessing. So yeah, it's affected me a lot. Still affecting me to this day, to be honest with you. But yeah, love, my family and all of that stuff. Sometimes I didn't in the past, but
Mm.
that's really how it's, molded me and created me to be who I am now. Yeah.
Man, that's sick. And I think while you were talking, the thing that kind of stuck out into my mind is just like, there's a lot of pressure there. There's a lot of pressure of being, you feel like you have to make sure you move and you maneuver correctly, because it's not just, I can be a kid because like my dad has to go in there on Sunday and I
hmm
have to, and I'm sure he's like, hey, you don't you embarrass me, boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, I think that's super unique as, for me, just hearing that, because as a kid, were you cautious of it? Like when did you really start to like think about that and be cautious of your decision and your actions?
I'd say that first became I mean, there were times, when I was a little kid where, I would have to get pulled aside by parents and, teachers and things like that. But it really stuck out to me. I think it was my freshman or sophomore year of high school. I believe it was midterms or finals, so we had gotten out a bit early, and I was walking with my friends across the street, and I, just remember talking to him, saying stuff that I shouldn't have been saying, to, be frank with you. But there was a lady that was driving in her car,
Mm-hmm.
that had the windows down, and she hasn't, she really wasn't. She wasn't, active in the church that much. I really hadn't seen her for a while, but she still had, my dad's number. So
Mm-hmm.
she texted him, told him that I was, saying this kind of thing, and I was, dropping this, which that was that was probably the first time that it really
Mm-hmm.
jumped out at me, like I have eyes on me everywhere,
Yeah.
especially in the town that I grew up in. So not only was it like, whoa, like, like I'm getting in trouble, like, like I can't, but it was really like an eye opener as to, I really do have to carry myself differently,
Mm-hmm.
because when your parents give you advice, sometimes you listen to it, but when they give it too much, that's when it kind of starts to fall on deaf ears. So they had always taught me, you know, like things are different for you, like not just being a PK, but also being a black man.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are certain instances where you do have to watch what you say, who you're around, the things that you do. But that was when it clicked for me. And then, yeah, that was still think about that to this day quite a bit because it kind of sheds light into my dad's world.
Yeah.
You know, people that they haven't reached out, they haven't spoken to in a really long time, all of a sudden just, hit,
Possibly up.
yeah. So definitely in terms of putting myself in kind of his shoes too, I think that kind of helped a bit with that.
And
For
I think that's a bittersweet thing, right? Like as a kid, you kind of really had that innocence of not really knowing, but also like you said, it puts it in perspective. Puts it in perspective not only for yourself but for your father as well. And like man, like I could imagine like our church is like a very family centered
Very.
church. Like you go in there and it just feels like family.
Yep.
And I can only imagine like the way everyone treats like my kids, letting them run around in the lobby and everyone knows them. So I can only imagine, as you coming up, you may not know everybody, but everybody knows you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just having that, all eyes on you kind of mindset is kind of, it's kind of like, oh man, like I really have to be on my P's and Q's all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And something else you said, and it brought me back to our episode when April was on with Joe, and Joe was giving her the business about how he had to go to 5 services. and I was just like, man, like how did that impact you coming up, having to go to multiple services, that had to wake up, like you said, how to go to the youth service? How did that really impact you? Yeah.
You really just want to do fun stuff. You don't want to have to, hey, like you have to go to this place, you like have to do this thing. So I'd say definitely it seemed like it was an inconvenience for me. And it led to me kind of resenting my parents as well because, they are the ones that are, wanting me to do these things and go to these places and things like that. But it really just led to me, honestly, there was a point to where I kind of I accepted it. And I just kind of, stopped caring as much. And then as I got older, as I was able to have a bit more freedom, I have, like a license now. I don't have to stay for both services. I can leave after the first or the second.
Freedom.
Or something like that. Yeah, right. And then, getting a job, getting money and things like that. Now, I'm leaving church, going to the mall, going to, get clothes. I'm in church, thinking about like, what am I going to do like after this? Like, what am I, so definitely, just had to accept it. And then as I got older, that's kind of when I started to stray from it because that's when that freedom came in. So now I don't have to go as much. Now, lacrosse season's here. I don't have to go to, the youth group and things like that. So yeah, that was sorry if I, seem like I'm like rambling or something like that. It's just, I've never had, someone really sit down and like ask me questions like this. So if I seem like I'm getting a bit, like off track, it's just because there's a lot. So that's just really how it, impacted me. That's how it made me kind of see the church and Christianity as it's just unfair.
Yeah.
Being a kid, I was like, this isn't fair.
Yeah.
So
I could completely relate to that. And that's somebody that, when my mom was making me go to church when I was younger, it was like, man, why do I have to do that? I'm tired. I want to sleep in.
Yeah.
I got to go to school on Monday. Now this is my one day. But I could sleep. And when I was in church, I would be sleeping. I was one of those kids. unfortunately.
Tell me about
I
it.
know.
Tell me about it.
And so like, so I completely, I can see that from a childhood perspective, like wanting to, like you said, just be a kid and really like focus on being a kid. One thing that you said, like, I want to circle back to is, you started to get a little bit more freedom, and, kind of doing, not really being on it. Did, as you were feeling the younger time when you didn't have that freedom, and you said you started to fall away a little bit, what did that experience look like for you? Did you have a moment where you were just like, I don't know if this is for me? And did you take a step back at all?
You mean like when the freedom kind of got to me, and then I was like, like, do I want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. College.
Okay.
Literally as soon as I got there.
Mm-hmm.
I literally looked forward to moving out of my house from the time I was 13 all the way up until I was, old enough to actually go. So when I did leave, parents were sad. I was ecstatic. I was so happy, so happy. But again, leading into that freedom, now instead of having freedom under my parents' roof, I have freedom 2.5 hours away from the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to college, literally put God on the back burner, put Christianity on the back burner entirely. Didn't go to church for a solid 2 years, which has never happened in my whole life, being raised up in that environment. And then all of a sudden it's like, I get to wake up on a Sunday and be like, I don't have to, like, I don't have to leave. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. And then, college, you get the vibes, you get, the parties. I was in a fraternity while I was there too, the girls and all of these just different temptations that are just being thrown at you. So with that additional freedom and that additional fun, I felt like I didn't even need God.
Yeah.
So I didn't depend on him at all. I had a job. I was just having fun. And it's so interesting to see how the devil works when he sees that you're not on top of your stuff. And I had things that, I won't go into detail about them too much, but when I look back on them, there's no coincidence that as soon as I was away from that environment, as soon as I'm not near my parents, as soon as I'm not, being made to do these Christian things anymore, and I don't feel like I have to really follow God, as soon as that crept in, that's when certain things, certain people started to make their way into my lives. I knew that they weren't good. I knew that it wasn't good for me. And I knew what I had heard about things like that in the past, but I was just blinded by, all of that fun, all of that freedom. And coming back from it, coming back from school, coming here, really trying to get back on my walk with God, surrounding myself with people like you guys. That's what really showed me how the devil was creeping into my life once I got that freedom. So once I noticed that, it was eye-opening. You read certain scriptures and then you think about, that's what that was talking about? Like,
Right.
Are you serious? So yeah, it was fun. It was fun until I realized how hurtful and how destructive sin can truly be. I feel like I didn't understand sin until I got in that environment. So once I learned that, that's what kind of got me back on it. But yeah, as soon as I left, I was just,
you gone.
Yeah.
I completely, and I think that's like when you think about, not just PKs, like not just children of pastors, just kids that grew up through like the youth system in churches and grow up in churches. As soon as they get that little bit of freedom, as soon as they get that opportunity to move away, we see a lot of that in our society. And it's just like, we say that we were saying the word freedom, but I think somebody told me I forget who said it or where I heard it, but freedom is not necessarily just doing anything and everything you want to, but it's the freedom to know what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we are confined and you having some strict rules and things like that, even though we think or we know that it's for our benefit, soon as we don't have to do that, we kind of fall away a little bit, and which is good. And I did want to circle back to, you said coming back to God, and when did you start to pursue God for yourself, and not just because your dad was preaching on Sundays and your mom was in the living room praying, but when did you say, like, Blake, I need to discover this for myself and seek it for myself?
Yeah, that there's a specific instance in where I did, and that kind of goes back to what I was just saying about, certain people and certain things. There was a relationship that I was in when I was in college.
It's always the relationships.
And yeah, bless her. Things were up and down, but loved her for what I thought love to be. And we were continuing doing long distance. That was when I came back. And then I had the intention of going back in like a year. Just come back, do school, work a bunch, get away from that and place, and then see if I can handle it and then go back. And I remember, things in that relationship, once there was space between us, they started to definitely take a turn. And I remember ending that relationship, and about a month later found out some stuff that had been happening that I wasn't aware of. And this is someone that I thought that I was going to marry, thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. Like, that was like my first girlfriend. It was my first real relationship. So, the naivety that you get with that, it's like, oh, like, this person's going to be forever. Like, I don't want nobody else. Like, I don't want to do like nothing else. So when it ended and when I found that stuff out, it just really hurt, just to say the very least. It was just a very hurtful feeling. And I remember looking at my parents' relationship. I remember looking at, other relationships of people that seemed to put God first, and it seemed like they were happy, or it seemed like they were at least doing something that I wasn't doing. It seemed like they had something that I didn't have. So I realized in order to attract, or in order to be with a different woman, to be with someone that was actually good for me, I had to be a better man. And that's one of the things that is the thing that made me come back to God, is I want to be a man in you. I saw my dad's the manliest man that I know. And then his friends, his board, I saw them, all fly down. They have their, like, monthly meeting, and I come downstairs. This is, after I find out everything that I find out, and I just see these 4 men just strong-willed in their faith. They're all, married, they have kids, like, they put God first, and I'm just looking at them and I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I want my life to be. That's who I want to be. So it was that relationship, and it was things taking a turn for the worst, and it was that whole experience that really led me to see, okay, God, at the end of the day, you know me, you know how important love is to me, how much, I want a family, I want children, I want all of that stuff. You know how important this is to me. So I feel like he brought me through all of that to show me, hey, if you want real love, I can show you what that looks like. So that was the experience that led me to really, really come back to it. And, hoping the best for, her, I have, prayed for her also, which is something that I wasn't doing at first. I was like, yeah, I was so spiteful. I didn't want someone else to experience God's love,
Yeah.
which is, I never even thought that I'd be able to say that. But that is one of the things that he also showed me is, like pray. Don't hold that stuff inside, your heart and things like that. So he's definitely worked on me through that. And that's one of the things that I thought it happened thought that it happened to me, but it actually happened for me. So really, really grateful for that.
Man, and I think that's such a one. Thank you for being transparent and honest, because I think we all have those come to Jesus moments. It's literally, and it looks different for everybody. And knowing something like that could, God gets the glory, and I think it's our steps are ordered, and then sometimes we don't see it while we're going through it, but it, like you said, it helps us get to the place we need to be to really identify that I need Jesus in my life. I need, Christ in my life. And I know that like, when you have somebody in your life like your father and like your mother who is really, really just driven off of faith, and, how do I find that for myself? And so like now, and because you're 21, right?
22 now.
22,
Yeah.
big dog. As now that you're 22 and looking back, like, what is some things that you could, you see that your parents were doing while you were younger that now you see it for your benefit now?
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'd say the first one, probably the one that's just, it's something that just comes so easy to me now. Respect, just being a genuine person, holding the door open for people, saying please and thank you, yes ma'am, no sir. My parents have always modeled being a servant my whole life. So just doing things for people, when we would go to Safe House and I didn't really want to go because I was, 6 years old and I didn't understand what a homeless person was. So I was afraid of them. And then, we would end up, like making them sandwiches, giving them jackets and things like that. Now that's caused me to see if, the Lord allows me to, have children. That's definitely an experience that I want them to have as well, because I think that empathy and being able to place yourself in someone else's shoes, that's critical, not just, for being a Christian, but just life, period. I feel like seeing things from other people's, perspective and, just really doing things like that. That's one of the things that they've helped me see quite a bit. So, when I do hear or I see people talking down or, treating people of a, different communities a certain way, I feel something in me, just because my parents, showed me, loving everyone, the least of these, serving them, just being kind to them, being good, no matter what they do to you. That's something that, I'll carry my whole life. And I've seen that in both my mom and my dad ever since like day one. So
Man,
definitely that.
and I think that's really awesome. And like, if you don't know, Blake goes full circle, as he mentioned that he was going to the youth on Wednesday nights, and now he's actually volunteering and serving the youth as a leader now. And so it goes to show that God is working in your life, and now it's to the point that it's overflowing into the youth in the community as well. And so it's like, as your thought process and how you felt about being a PK at your younger years. How do you feel about it now?
Love it. Love it. It's there are still, those parts of me that's like, ugh, like this is, this could be a little bit, like different. But, just in terms of like having, all those eyes be on me and things like that. I used to be a huge like attention guy. Loved it. Love having, all, eyes on me. I'm not really like that way anymore. So that's definitely something that I'm still having to get used to. But I love it in the way that I see the world that we live in now. I know for a fact if I didn't have that upbringing, the morals and the stuff that I would probably be into, the stuff that I would do, it would be a lot different.
Yeah.
And then also, just being able to teach people and show people God just through how He loves me, through what He's done for me. All of those things that have happened in my life are now experiences that I get to bring to church on Wednesdays and share with those kids. Like if they have any questions or concerns, I've probably done it, or I've thought about it or something like that. So yeah, I'd say I like it a lot more now that I am an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am a preacher's kid, but like not a kid anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there is that freedom, but just like you said, not just freedom to do whatever, but freedom to know and to have that discernment of what's right and what's wrong. So I feel that a lot more now, and I didn't really feel that when I was growing up. So just being able to teach people and show people the same way that Joe taught me. Yeah, it is really cool to see all of those things come full circle, and hopefully I get to do it for a while longer because the kids are awesome.
Yeah,
Love them.
man. Yeah, man. There's nothing like serving the youth, man, and getting an opportunity to pour into the next generation, and being able to not only relate to them but share your story. And it's nothing like it. And you're doing a great job. Just coming back and jumping into it, man. And so it's like I really wanted to sit down here, really pick your brain about what that looked like. I mean, like I said, my story is a little bit different. I wasn't really raised in the church, and I had to find out those morals and those in that way on my own. It felt like, and it was
Mm-hmm.
tough.
Mm-hmm.
The right from wrong, and just the um, being introduced to God's love was a way I had to go out and find it. And so, for seeing it from your perspective of you know really being shown that, and you kind of being honed in on it when you did kind of go away, it was a lot easier to circle back to.
Yeah. Yeah.
The seeds were been planted in
Yeah.
you, and even though you had the opportunity to kind of stray away, when it push came to shove, you knew I needed to do this. You had the right examples, right? And so that's awesome to see, awesome to hear. And one thing I love to like ask people is, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
If I had to give my younger self some advice, what would it be? Um, wow. Honestly, that's kind of a tough one. Um, cause every I know I would change some things, but I also am not sure if I would want to.
Mm,
But I'd say the most important advice that I would give to myself anytime that you are feeling down or stressed or like sad, just lean on God. Don't lean on friends. Don't lean on people. Don't lean on certain things that may turn into addictions, and now
mm,
you're stuck in a cycle. um if I had told myself, really, really accept that what you have is great. If I could go back and tell myself, like, yo, your parents, like this household, like the way that you're growing up, not a lot of people get this.
mm,
You may hate it, you have it amazing. If I could tell myself that, um, yeah, I think it would actually be that. I would tell myself, you have it great.
mm,
Because I would make myself out to be the victim all the time, not taking accountability for anything. I would mess up and I would chalk it up to, being a preacher's kid, and there's all this pressure and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you can't expect me to, like be perfect and all of that.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be the advice that I would give to myself is, no matter how angry you get at mom or dad, no matter how much, you want to move out, move into one of your friends' places or something like that because they have cooler parents. Stay. They love you. They care about you. They would do anything for you. And growing up, yeah, I feel like I would do the same for them too. Do anything for them.
Man, that's awesome, man. Isn't it great to, be able to look back and see like the progress, and see like the journey is worth it.
It's fantastic.
And like, we're all here. We're all super young.
Yeah.
You are a lot younger than us, but but you brother, but you still get to really enjoy it looking back, and and God has a funny way of just showing you like, hey, this is what I have for you.
Yeah.
This is the type of love that I have for you. And, even though you turned away for a little bit, that love was still the same. Even on your bad days, that your love was still the same. And on good days, that love was still the same. And, really, your family is an example of that love. And just that in your journey speaks towards that. And I think this is one of a good conversation I really wanted to have, because it doesn't matter the story, but as long as the story points back to Jesus, it points back to God, and you give an opportunity to glorify Him in that, and that's all I see in that, because it's it is the what's the story in the book where the son. I want the inheritance. I'm gonna go and get it.
Yeah.
Now I'm sleeping in the pig pen, and
Prodigal
now,
son, yeah.
yeah,
That's exactly how I felt. That's
know?
exactly how I felt.
And really just like, man, I don't deserve this love. And now when I come back, the last thing I expect is to be welcomed with open arms. But that's what God is waiting on, just waiting for you to come back and to circle back and have an opportunity to look back and see, wow, like that's where I was, and this is how far I came, and now I have an appreciation for it, and it gives me the opportunity to glorify God even more. Is amazing. And so, and that's why we really wanted to have conversations like this, to really dive into different type of stories, and to learn a little bit more of not everyone's relationship with Jesus is the same. Not everyone has not everyone meets Jesus in the church.
Yeah.
Not everyone meets Jesus, in the back of the alley, or whatever it is. But we all have the unique opportunity to meet Jesus, and once we accept Him, He'll do amazing things in our lives. And I think, learning from your perspective of being the pressures of having a pastor as a father, and having a community that's kind of always around, that kind of, built you up. And so that's, one, thank you for joining us and,
of course,
and telling
man.
your story, man.
Of course.
And it's always nice to get to know you a little bit more, dog. And so, and, I think I learned something, and I hope somebody on the other end, learn a little bit too. And if not, you get to, hear about the amazing Blake Norman. It's not just about PK, but
appreciate y'all, man.
But yeah, man. And so, if you're still with us, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, and thank you for rocking with us. I don't know how many episodes of this now. Is this six or seven? And man, we have a ton of more episodes that we are in a conversation we wish to have. But if you could do us a favor, please drop a comment, a like, a share, subscribe to the page. Check us out on Instagram as well. I don't want to butcher the name because I can't remember right now, but we're going to have it in the comment below. And so, please check us out. Please share it. Please let somebody know. And tell us what you think. And we would love to hear back from you guys as well. And as always, we're just going to end it out in prayer, and we'll be good.
Yeah.
And so
awesome.
So Dear Lord, dear Heavenly Father, first and foremost, thank you for tonight, and thank you for Blake. Thank you for allowing Blake to come and share a little bit of his story and from his perspective. I hope that I know I've learned something tonight, and I hope that somebody on the other side of the screen has learned something as well. Lord, continue to move in Blake's life, continue to watch over him, and continue to provide wisdom and to do all the amazing things that you have purpose for him. And Lord, thank you for allowing us to have this platform. Thank you for allowing us to really just want to get to know you more, get to become closer to you through conversations just like this, Lord. And the only prayer that and the only thing that we ask for is that that you interact with somebody on the other side of the screen, Lord. Please make yourself known, and please share that love that you have for all of us and for everyone, and allow them to accept that and get to know you and want to learn and want to grow and want to be closer to you, Lord. So thank you for this podcast. Thank you for everyone who is watching and tuning in and supporting us, and ultimately just allow us to continue to glorify your name. In Jesus, amen.
Amen.
So that is another episode down. Once again, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. But until next time, this is the Forge Podcast. Peace. You are holy.